This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to the western fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park here in South Africa. And a very special welcome to our 10-cent video viewers. It's lovely to have you on board the world's largest safari. My name is James Henry. David is on camera, and we've started off with a magnificent sunrise and some glorious wildebeest that are grazing across the plains here. Please do talk to us. You can do that using the comments section of whatever feed you're watching. It would be great to have your questions, your comments, or anything else you'd like to say about Africa or safari. We're hopefully going to show you some spectacular animals today, and it's a wonderful day here in South Africa. It's dawned not quite bright yet. Soon it will be bright, but it's clear and crisp and stunning. Now, these wildebeest will probably head down to the water just now to have a bit of a drink. They've been out on the clearings all night, and they've been out on the clearings quite lucky because there were lions around here all of yesterday evening, and it doesn't look like any of the wildebeest were harmed by the lions. They'll be happy about that. The lions will not. And you'll find as the light comes, they'll head off into the woodlands around the area, probably do some grazing, and then lie down in the shade to have some cud chewing, basically. Now, I spoke of lions. Apparently, they've already found some.
Good morning and welcome, everyone. And as you can see, we have gotten very lucky with some lions this morning. By the way, my name is Clive, and we are going to be spending a bit of time with these lions this morning. They're just moving off up the road. I'm just going to reposition the vehicle quickly. What an amazing start to the morning. This, when you're able to find lions so quickly in the morning, it makes such a big difference. So for the regular viewers that were watching last night, I'm sure you would have seen these same lions in exactly the same place as well, just behind us. And it seems like the two adult lionesses have moved off and are probably out hunting. Look at this. They're probably out hunting, and they've left these 5 youngsters to they're supposed to stay in the same place, I'm sure. But they seem to be wandering slightly. And they've moved a couple of 100 meters from where the lionesses would have left them. But look at this. They've also been making these soft little contact calls. As if it happens again, I'll stop talking and you can listen. But they've been making these soft contact calls, probably trying to find where the adults are, where the lionesses are. But these ones will still be a little bit too young to actually go off hunting with the lionesses. So I think they've just left them to play for a while. Look at how muddy they are as well. There's mud all over their bodies and underneath their feet. Look at that one coming into the screen now. He's full of mud. So I think they've been running around and playing and jumping on each other. That's actually exactly what was happening as soon as we got here. But let's carry on up the road quickly. So to be able to spend time like this with these lions is just really amazing. They're looking very interested in that direction. I wonder if the lionesses aren't close by. It'll be really nice if the lionesses are here and they come back. You must watch out for the whole greeting, I would call it a greeting ritual. Lots of jumping on each other. I'm going to sit here and see if these lionesses come. But for now, we're going to send you somewhere else for someone else to say hello this morning.
Good morning everyone, and welcome on board. A big special hello to the 10-cent video viewers and of course all our regular viewers. It's great to have you on board here. I'm in Juma Game Reserve, the same as James, and we are just stopping to listen. My name is Lauren and I do have BK on camera. It's really important, especially over the noise of the engines, to sometimes stop and listen to hear if you can hear any of the animals making sounds around. So that's exactly what we're doing. There's a really important junction up ahead, so that's where I'm going to race to now, and we're going to look at the ground. We know that there's lions around. They're a little bit north on a property that we can't get to, but they may come onto ours. We also heard leopards sawing, so there's leopards somewhere. So it's just really important for me to try and pick up tracks of where the leopards are in order to follow them. The morning, the slate is wiped clean. So what that means is you can start to pick up the pieces of what happened during the night. Who moved where? Who's going in what direction? What happened? And you do that by listening and also looking at the ground. Sometimes you have to hang out your vehicle, like I am doing right now, in order to see if anybody has moved anywhere. And this is my favorite time of day, the morning. The sun is just coming up over the horizon here. We'll get a great view of it soon. And we can also start to put together exactly what happened during the night. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing from you all. I'll do my very best to try and answer your questions, and hopefully we will find some predators here. We had the dominant lion pride in our area. Can you hear the hornbills? Just over here. They're wakening up. It's morning time. You see them, BK? Just over there. Yellow-billed hornbill. The sun is up, so the birds are now calling. That's what they sound like. 2 of them. I imagine they're hungry. It's been a cold night. And off they go. The reason birds call in the morning is to establish themselves. We're still here. We survived the night. This is my territory, and I am still alive and ready for the day ahead. And I am ready for the day ahead. We are going to drive and see if I can find those tracks, but let's take a look at a beautiful sunrise.
So warm welcome to all our normal viewers, as well as some of our 10-cent viewers that are new. So we're currently watching the sunrise here at andBeyond in Ngala, and I am Nikki, going to be your guide for this morning. Now, just to show you where we are at the moment, so if I just take a little map of South Africa right over here, so you'll notice that we are right over here on the northeastern side, in the Spec Conservation area right over here. There's a little dot. So if we zoom in, so this is hopefully what our plan is going to be this morning. This is the map that we can see right over here. Now, basically, we are round about over here on the reserve, and what we're going to be doing is spend some time in this area and see if there's any chances of possibly finding some white lions, as well as yesterday there was some leopard seen up in this area right over here, and maybe see if we can do a little loop down and possibly find some leopards. So that's going to be our plan, and of course whatever we see along the way will just be a bonus. But for now, it is early part of the morning. It's nice and cool. We just don't know what we're going to find yet. But I think let's head on this road and take you on this adventure and see if we can find some of the animals we're looking out for. So early part of the morning, it's often a good opportunity just to stop the vehicle and listen out. So when we look for lions in particular, of course, we're going to be looking out for tracks, but also we're going to be listening out for any signs. There might be impala, wildebeest, some of the common animals that might snort, and that could tell us maybe there's a lion or a leopard in the area, they spotted it, and they don't want it to be anywhere near. And because of that, we can be able to then possibly find those lions. The other way of doing it is with male lions and even with females. In order to tell the other lions this is their area, they'll often roar, so like a deep, and that's what we're going to be listening out for as we go along, and hopefully find these lions and leopards.
Well, it sounds like Nikki is pretty much describing our sighting here, because we've had some contact calls from these youngsters looking for the adults, and some alarm calls from up in the mountains from Ngala that have probably seen these lions. But they're all just slowly moving on up the road here, and it's somewhere these youngsters shouldn't be walking, because their mother is not with them. Their mother left them a couple of 100 meters back in an area, and I don't think they're supposed to be walking off like this, but I guess they're at that age where they just want to explore and all these new smells. Wild Mountain, this is a pride that we call the Byala Pride. They are kind of resident in the southwest corner of the reserve, and this is the area that we normally find them. Not so much just here. There's a huge area behind us that's all part of their territory. Just to put it in perspective, up until yesterday afternoon, we hadn't seen this pride for about 3 or maybe even 4 days. I think it was 4 days. So they disappeared. We had no idea where they disappeared to. Some areas can be quite hard to track in. But wherever they were, I think they had caught something, because even still these youngsters have still got a little bit of like full bellies. You can see it kind of sways from side to side as they walk along there. Right, let's move on a little bit closer up this road. We're just going to stay behind them and follow them and see where they end up. Willie girl, these cubs there's actually 2 different ages. There's 3 that belong to one female and 2 that belong to another female. And they are about 2 months apart. So 3 of them are in the region of they're just under a year and a half. And then the other 2 are about 2 months less than that. So a little bit over a year old. It's very hard to see the difference just because it's such a small age gap between them. So it's and they're almost the same size. But the interesting thing about these 5 cubs is that, well, I don't want to call them cubs anymore because they're getting quite old, but the interesting thing is that all 5 of them are males, which is quite interesting. I mean, often you'll get some males, some females, but these are all males, which is really interesting. You'll see them. I'll stop just up ahead and we'll zoom in and have a look at their heads, and you'll start seeing they're getting like a little mohawk of hair over the top of their head. And that's the way we can tell that they're little young males. Okay, look at them jumping. Megan, that is a very good observation that they gawky at this age. That is right. They clumsy, they just like to play. They don't take life very seriously at this age. Sure, it's very interesting that they're walking so far away from where their mother left them. But it's nice for us. We're going to carry on following them, that's for sure. When we stop next, we're just going to pan out onto our right-hand side and show you this beautiful view here. We're going to show you this beautiful view on our right-hand side, and this is all part of this pride's territory, like I was saying. Right, so look at this view out over our right-hand side here. Look at that. But while we enjoy our view over here, we're going to send you across for a beautiful sunrise.
The sun has yet to pop up over the horizon. You can see it's just about to. What we're doing is looking for some lions here. We've got tracks of lions coming down this way. And I'm just going to check next to the water carefully and make sure that we can perhaps pick up some tracks. Make sure that they're not around here. Now, this time of the day, you'd expect to find them probably out in the open still and probably about to call their last before they head into the shade to sleep. I don't see anything here. And the mud is always a good place to look for them. Their tracks, I mean, because obviously they're big, heavy animals and they leave very obvious tracks. But there's water in a lot of places, and that means that, they've got a lot of choice as to where they drink. So what they've probably done is they've probably headed down the riverbed there. You can see the vegetation gets quite thick. You can see it gets quite green, and that's because we are on the banks of a dry riverbed, and I suspect quite strongly that the lions have headed south, which is to the right of your screen, down that way. We'll continue our search.
Welcome back to Juma Game Reserve. We are watching some impala. Look how alert they are. It's not just the ground that you must look at for tracks. It's also the animals around. Impalas have great eyesight, great hearing, great sense of smell. They will know if a predator is in the vicinity, and they will let you know by alarm calling. They make a snorting sound. It sounds a bit like... Maybe that's not the best example, and they'll let everybody know there's a threat. Zach, you're 6 years old, and yes, impalas do play. Most animals enjoy play at the end of the day because it's fun, and it also teaches them to interact with one another. Impalas are very, very social, and it encourages them to move, develop muscles. So yes, they do interact when they're young. And the rutting season, which is where the male and females mate, is almost over, because you can see here, this is all, well, it's a big group of males. I think it's a bachelor herd. I can't see one single female, which means that they're all friends again. They're not competing. They're not fighting with one another. But I have another thing to show you in my hand. And it's not an impala, but it comes from an impala. I picked it off the ground, and it's impala poop. They do this all together in the one area, and this is to mark their territories. They're very territorial at the minute. You can see how small they are, and you can actually break it apart and then see all the vegetation inside, because it's from a herbivore. So this is very much impala territory at the minute. So we're going to say goodbye to these impalas and head on down to the next waterhole.
So earlier on, I know you would have been looking at some impala dung with Lauren, but so right in front of us we have these little birds that are actually picking at some dung. So see that one is turning around? So just based on the colour as well as the colour of the face, it's called the Swainson spurfowl. Does look like they... Oh, there's the one coming back. But so early on there was a old patch of buffalo dung. So the ones were actually moving it, probably looking for insects, possibly little bits of grass seed that might be in the dung. But it does look like they have moved off. I just wanted to move a little bit forward here and see if we can get another glimpse of them. So that might work, but there's a chance they might fly off. So let's just give it a go. Just bear with me as we move a little bit closer here, because there's a good chance we could see them again. I'm just going to stop like this because we can see the head of the one right in the grass in front of us. I think it might have just moved off. But with the spur fowl moving off, I just wanted to take the time just to show you the picture of the spur fowl that we actually looked at. And then I also want to show you the beautiful sunrise this morning. But if you look right over here, so there's quite a few birds that we find in South Africa. And some of the more ground-dwelling birds are like these ones right over here. So you can see here, the Swainson spurfowl, that's the one we saw earlier. So look at the bit of red right over here, bit of red around the throat, and of course some blackish grey feet. And those were the ones right in front of us. Now have a look at how beautiful the sunrise is this morning. So you can imagine, also as we're sitting down here, we are trying to listen out for those lions and leopard as we mentioned earlier. But have a look at how beautiful.
Right. Welcome back again, and this is really amazing. So these cubs have been walking along this road, and all of a sudden they spotted wildebeest and zebra off on the left-hand side, but with them being young and definitely no good at hunting yet, they've moved off into the grass to pretend to hunt these animals, but the wildebeest saw them straight away, and they've been alarm calling already. And so they know they're there. The wildebeest aren't in any danger now. But they're probably about 60 or 70 meters away from the lions. And that's still in their comfort zone. They know the lions, especially young lions like this, can't run fast enough to be able to successfully catch one of them. So they feel quite safe. And I think the lions have realized that too now. They've realized they're wasting their time. But you know, like at this age, it's all such good practice for them anyway, even if they're not going to catch anything, and I'm sure they know that too, but it's just really good practice for them to try anyway. Well, as I said, we're going to carry on following these lions for quite a while this morning, and we're going to send you over to yet another reserve.
Good morning and welcome to Pridelands. Look at what we found. This might look like a strange creature to most of you, but it is a young hyena, and we call them cubs. And this one is particularly curious this morning as it's coming right up to the vehicle to say hello. And now it's disappearing. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me is Gat, and we are sitting here at Pridelands, which is a part of Tswalu Game Reserve in the Greater Kruger National Park. And it is such an amazing morning, and we're so lucky to have two young hyena cubs. They're just moving at the moment. They're actually going behind the vehicle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and reverse and see if we can get a better view. Unfortunately, we can't film from behind the car. So I'm going to go back very slowly. They're actually being very naughty, these hyena cubs. Yes, this is also in South Africa. We're actually not too far away from Ngala or Djuma. Look, here they are. Hello, hyenas. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a nice spot for you all to see. It's a little bit difficult. There we can see another one. Cubs, so that, like I said, there's just the two of them, and they were very naughty. And the reason why I said that they were being naughty is because they're not supposed to be away from their den. Maybe they'll go back there. So where they live and where they've been told to stay by the adults is in a big termite mound underneath a really large tree, and there's lots of burrows that have been dug inside of it. And there's not just these two hyenas that live there, but there's about 9 of them that live around the den of different ages. But they can't help themselves. Just like young or young children, they want to explore. That natural instinct is taking over, and they want to learn about their surroundings. And hopefully we'll be able to teach you a little bit about the hyenas and their interactions within the ecosystem. They're just sneaking behind that raisin tree, and it looks like they're trying to do a bit of tree climbing, which is very unusual for hyenas, but all those smells are just getting them very intrigued today.
We're going to just move up ahead. These lions have just gone around a corner, but I'm just listening to what Taylor's saying about the young hyenas also being playful and naughty and moving away from the den, and it's exactly like these lions. They are doing exactly the same thing. There goes one of them. Well, it looks like this one's being left behind a little bit. I think the other four are a little bit further up ahead. Penny, I have no idea. They could be anywhere in this area, but they are definitely, what they've done is they've left the cubs in a pretty safe spot, and they are off hunting. That I do know. But where they have gone, they could be anywhere out here. Sometimes they have to move far distances to go hunting, to find animals, although the cubs have found animals right here. Just going to find a spot so we can stop the vehicle and watch them. This one realizes he's being left behind and he's running to catch up now. So a little bit of a bumpy road here. Gee, Al, we are very used to being in an open vehicle, and no, it's the best way to be on safari. You can feel the fresh air, you can see the birds, you can hear the birds. So it's definitely the best way to be on safari. And the animals are also very used to this open vehicle. So no, not worried about it at all. They're not scared of this vehicle, and they also don't look at us in the car as prey or food. So no, we are quite safe where we are, that's for sure. Just going to move another few meters up ahead. Oh, look at this one, looking straight at us. Beautiful. So they've now walked quite a distance from where their mothers left them. They must be close to 1 kilometer away now. So I think what's going to probably happen is the lionesses are going to go back to where she left them and maybe start following their scent. Faye, you're asking if there is any chance of seeing a warthog. It is quite possible, yes. This area, this big open grassland on our right-hand side that I showed you just now, is a very good area to find warthogs. Lots of food out here for them. So I'm hoping so. If we find one, I will definitely, we'll put it on the screen, okay? So you're going to have to keep watching, and we will do our best. Look at him getting left behind. A little sneeze from one of them. Sure, they're continually on the move here. Dorothy, no, they're a little bit away from the Mountain Pride territory. The closest I've seen Mountain Pride to here is on the other side of these mountains off on our left. And I've never seen these two prides come together before. It's quite a distance. It's probably, we don't know exactly where the Mountain Pride is at the moment, but their territory is very big. But But yeah, it's not close. They're definitely still in their territory, and they are very safe, that's for sure. Oh, that's a nice view. Now we can see all of them. Look at that. Oh, I think they must have all just heard something, because they've all stopped, and you can see all the ears are focused off in one direction. Oh, and now they've lost concentration. Their mothers, they're also stopping and listening every now and then, because if their mothers do go back to where they were and they're not there, they're probably going to start making a bit of contact calls, soft little, I suppose you could call it a roar, but very soft. And so they're going to be listening out for that as well. I think they want to find their mothers, because they're probably getting hungry. Look at them jogging down the road. Okay, I think we're going to spend a little bit more time following behind these little cubs anyway.
Welcome back. We're still here in Pridelands in the Greater Kruger National Park. Now, our little hyena cubs have just disappeared off into the bushes, but they might come back out. But I wanted to show you what a den of a hyena can look like. Now, I know it looks like just a pile of sand, but this was constructed by some termites which live under the ground, but this mound doesn't seem to be active anymore, and down inside there are actual burrows, and there'll be quite a big sort of tunnel network. There's about 2 or 3 entrances into this particular den. Now, I wish I could take you on inside, but I don't know if it's the hyenas that are living in this particular one. There are lots of tracks around there, but I have seen a warthog coming in and out too. But that's not uncommon. Warthogs and hyenas will sometimes live in the same termite mounds. Maybe not in the same burrows, but next door to one another. So it's really amazing how when one animal is not using a burrow, somebody else will quite happily come in and figure it all out. But it's really amazing to see, and I thought maybe if we sit here for long enough, a little head would pop out, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, Tswalu, I know you're wondering why the hyenas don't attack us in the vehicles. That's because we're not food to something like a hyena or a lion or a leopard, and we've also spent a lot of time with them in the cars. So they've learned to accept us as something that just occurs in nature, really. Sometimes hyenas are very naughty, the little ones especially, because they're so intrigued by all the smells, and they'll often come right up to the cars and want to chew on your tires. And hyenas have got a very strong bite force. You wouldn't want maybe a little hyena you'd be okay, but I wouldn't want a big hyena coming to chew on my tires, otherwise I'm definitely going to get a bit of a puncture. So we're just sitting here looking through all the tall grass to see if the cubs will come back out. But maybe they've run back towards the main den, which is not too far from here. It's a little bit of a drive away, but when I was there initially, there wasn't anything. But there's also elephants moving in the distance, so at any moment the elephants could pop out, and we could see them too. But for now, we have to be very patient and wait for the animals to come to us. And that beautiful tree that you can see on the top right-hand side of your screen, that is a marula tree, and probably one of the most iconic trees in Africa. Maybe you have seen the lovely liqueur that is made from the fruit of this tree, a marula. We've just had marula season up in the beginning of the year in February, March, but now this tree has lost all its leaves and is just taking a break, I suppose, before the rainy season starts in a few months' time, and it gets its lovely flowers, and then the leaves develop and the whole system starts again. But also a great tree. Sometimes if you look carefully, you might even see a squirrel sitting on the branches just sunning themselves. But this tree doesn't seem to have anything in it. Might even be something like a bush baby, which is one of our primate species that is nocturnal. So it spends most of its time being active at nighttime, and they like to also live in the hollows of these trees. So it just goes to show that you can find many things that just live in one single tree.
So we're back here at Ngala, so we just found a leopard. The leopard is moving, so we want to try and see if we can position in such a way that we can see this leopard. So just bear with us. I just saw it moving into the tall grass in front of us, so just want to move around this first thicket, and then we're going to look off somewhere here to our left. Now, yesterday there were two leopards mating in the area, and I'm thinking that these are exactly the same two. Well, I've just seen one now, and it might have just gone and lied down in the tall grass. So just bear with me as I maneuver around to see if we can possibly see him. (10:22). This is live. So as we're talking to you now, we are following a leopard. So basically, it's early part of the morning. It's nice and cool. You can also notice the golden color. So it's early part in the morning here in South Africa. And of course, with some amazing animals that we're hoping to find and show everyone this morning. So I just want to have a look. So there's quite a lot of tall grass in front of us. So I think while we're going to try and see if we can get you a glimpse of this leopard, we're going to send you to a bird.
We have a gorgeous bird, a resident here. It's very common to see, but it's beautiful. This is a magpie shrike. Magpie because it's black and white. And it's just sitting very cautiously on this thin-looking branch. Doesn't look too stable. I imagine it's looking for breakfast. They hunt insects, so they're insectivores. And what they do is they use their really, really keen eyesight, a very good eyesight, perched up on branches to try and look, off he goes, to try and look for insects below. That's exactly what he's doing. Once they spot an insect, they swoop down and pick it up with their beak and swallow it nice and quickly. Isn't he beautiful? But please, please do send in your questions. That's why we're here. You're welcome to ask us anything about the environment. Use the hashtag WildEarth or pop it in the comments box, because we really want to hear from you. All the birds are wakening up. It's winter, so there's not as much food around, which means there will be competition between birds to get all those delicious insects that are crawling along the ground. Okay, so we're going to keep bumbling and looking for our lions.
Right, so we're back with our little lion cubs here, and they have started to settle down. You can see there's one lying down and two lying down in the distance. Okay, make that three lying down now. And they're just starting to settle down a bit. Oh, look at that, rubbing up against each other. Now, the interesting thing about, I was saying earlier that all 5 of these youngsters are males. And that means they, from now, are going to be together for the rest of their life. So once they get kicked out of this pride, they're going to stick together in a group. Liz, no, these lions are not lost. They are just wandering, actually. The lionesses, their mothers left them, we think, to go off hunting. That's the only real explanation. And they were probably supposed to stay in the same spot, but since we found them, they've moved about a kilometer or so from where they were left. So I don't think they're supposed to be wandering, but that is exactly what they're doing. Maybe their mothers left them early on in the evening, and these cubs are just bored now and they want to know where the adults are, so they're on a bit of a mission. I don't think they really know where they're going, though. They are just, I guess they know this area because it's all part of their territory, and they're just moving around. Oh, big yawn from one of them. how good their hearing is. I mean, these two were not looking down the road, and the other one was lying in the road. And as soon as he got up and started walking, they must have heard that little sound of the sand moving, and they looked back at him. That's really incredible, their hearing. Oh, they've been following the road up until now. It looks like they're moving onto a trail now. $10.22. Yeah, they're definitely not full. You would see if they were full, they would have a very big belly. But they're also not extremely hungry. They're also not really, really skinny. So, but I think, yeah, I'm sure their mothers are off hunting somewhere to try and find them a little bit more food. Wow, this grass is long that they've moved into here. Let's try and see where they've gone in. Ah, there they are. Oh, there's one. Sorry, I know you can't see from this spot, but there's one pretty close here, and I don't want to scare him off. Let me actually turn sideways so you can see as well. Oh, of course, now he starts moving. Typical. Okay, there they are, just through these bushes here. Okay, I think we're going to try and get a bit of a better view of these lions. And while we do that, we'll send you across to Dylan in Tswalu.
Good morning from a magnificent day out here at Tswalu Kalahari. My name's Dylan. A big welcome to all our regular viewers, and a huge welcome as well to all our 10-cent viewers. We've got something very, very special for you today. We're going to be looking at this group of meerkats. They're still in bed. It's still very, very, very cold, but we're just going to be patient and wait until they come out. They might have little pups. If you've got any comments, please feel free to send them through. And on Twitter, you can use the hashtag WildEarth. This is going to be so exciting this morning. It's very, very cold here. There's been a lot of frost and ice around on our vehicles. So we might be having to wait for maybe another 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But I think it's going to be totally worth it. Let Happiness Give has just asked, is this really live? Absolutely, 100%. We are standing out here in this magnificent landscape. Sun isn't even up yet. The meerkats are still down underground in their burrows sleeping. So we try to get here very, very early before they actually get up. It's always better that way to be sitting waiting for animals rather than going out and trying to find them when they're already out doing things. So yeah, this is very, very much live. So these burrow systems that you can see in front over here, there's probably about 20 different burrow entrances here. So we've got to see which one they're going to come out. My Antau has just asked, are there any leopards in this big open area here? My answer is that I don't know, but there's very, very likely a predator of sorts. Yesterday morning, in fact, we had 2 cheetah, which are very similar to leopards. There's some differences, but they're very similar. And they actually had 2 cheetah males that actually walked very, very close to these burrows, just on that side of the burrows. So that was exciting. Unfortunately, we missed it. But yeah, so there could be leopards out here. These mountains that you can see here in the distance, that's a stronghold of leopards in this area. They love, love, love these mountainous areas. There's lots of food for them up in those areas. So those, along the base of those hills, is where we frequently see leopards. It's quite nippy this morning. It was probably about -2 where I stay, so -2 degrees centigrade, but luckily there isn't a big wind chill factor. There's hardly any wind. You can see the air is very, very still. And what these meerkats are going to do is they're going to wait until just before the sun comes up, before starting to come out the burrows when it's a bit warmer. So we're just going to wait here and see what happens.
One of the greatest things to investigate of a morning is a midden such as this one. And this particular midden belongs to a white rhinoceros, which is not around here right now. And I thought what we'd do is just quickly break some open and check the difference between this and elephant dung, because there is quite a marked difference. So what we have here is some rhino dung, and you can see that from how black it is. Elephant dung looks very similar, but it's often got a kind of red color, and that's because of the tannin in the bark that the elephants eat. And then only the rhinos make a midden. And what's quite interesting here is that this intact piece, which is not part of the midden, it was over there, I just moved it to the midden, has probably been placed here either by a subordinate bull or by a cow. So what the bull's done is he's come here, this is his position, it's his place, he's made his dung, and then he spread it with his feet like this, and he's walked off, leaving his scent. The others have come along here, the other rhino that live in his territory, the cow and the young bull, and they've defecated or dunged in the same place, but they don't spread it out like he does. Only the territorial bull has the pleasure and privilege of being able to stomp on his own dung and then leave his scent all over his territory. So that's what's going on here. Now, we are currently trying to find some leopard tracks. We haven't been lucky just yet, but I had leopard tracks in this area yesterday, and so I'm going to do my best to find them, and perhaps we'll be lucky with a little leopard a little bit later on. It's starting to warm up quite nicely, which is just great.
Huge elephant bull on Pridelands, and he's just standing with his rear end facing the sun and warming up this morning, as it has been very, very chilly. But this is one of my favorite elephants, and we get to see him almost every single day, which is really exciting that we get to see the same animals over and over. Even though he's got a huge ecosystem to move around in, he chooses to stay here. Now, I would love it if he turned around so that we could have a look at him, so that I can introduce you all to this elephant properly. But it doesn't seem like he wants to give up breakfast, and I don't blame him. And he's feeding on a nice prickly tree, as elephants tend to do. I think that tree has got lovely sweet leaves, and it's not hard for an elephant to navigate through all those thorns. Now, fly ostriches is something very important that we do not do on safari, is that we actually don't feed any of the animals out here. So the animals live out in the wild, and they fend for themselves, and they also look for their own food. So for an elephant, will go out foraging for about 19 hours a day, whereas lions and leopards and hyenas and cheetah and the other predators, they obviously need to hunt for their food, which is a little bit more tricky. But no, we do not feed the animals. We do not touch the animals or anything like that. So it's amazing that they are so relaxed with us around the car, but this is quite typical when you interact with animals in, say, a vehicle for a very long period of time, and it's constantly a positive interaction, which we typically do. You can see this elephant is so relaxed, he's turned and he's facing away from us. If he was unhappy with us, he would tell us, and as safari guides, we have to learn animal behavior. Come on, boy, turn around for us. He's standing a little bit too close to the road, so I don't want to go around him. I want to make sure that he has enough space and that he does feel comfortable, because this is his land in the end, and we as people are just visitors in this wonderful ecosystem. But he's about to destroy that entire tree if he keeps pulling on it. It's not a very big tree, So it probably tastes nice because it's nice and young still, not like a big old tree with all the leaves that are turning a little bit on the bitter and dry side at this time of the year. But I'll tell you what this elephant's name is. So the reason why I know who this elephant is because he has a collar on him, which we'll be able to see in a moment. And now they're doing amazing studies on elephants and tracking their move and seeing how far they actually move around, and they're able to get all sorts of other information too when they fit these tracking devices on them, like DNA samples and all these types of things. So he's one of the big elephant bulls that we see on a regular basis, and he goes by the name of Kumo. And there's a great organization that is doing wonderful work with elephants and helping us as safari guides and anybody that's just interested learn more about these amazing giants. Come on, boy. Don't think you need to tear up the entire tree. He's also eating a fair amount of the bark. He's just munching away now. But I think that this could be the tail end of a big herd of elephants that are up in the distance. So once we have got a gap, we are going to try and go around this big elephant, and hopefully the next time that you see us, we'll be with a herd of elephants drinking some water.
Well, talking of elephants, we don't have one, but we do have a beautiful marula tree that BK is going to show you as we go down. It's been damaged by the elephants. Elephants love the cambium layer, and the cambium layer is the layer inside of this tree. I'm going to jump out to try and show you exactly what I mean. And they use their tusks. Elephants are equipped with big tusks, of course, that come out, and you can see the elephants have been around. Look at this. And they jag their tusks in and pull out the bark, and this is called strip barking. And you can see here, this has all been stripped off by the elephant. Now, bark on the outside is actually dead. Bark forms in layers. It's the inside that's alive, with a cambium layer, and that's where all the nutrients are. So they run up and down, so the water that's pulled up by the roots gets sent up to the top of the tree, to the leaves, and all the nutrients from the leaves that are made by photosynthesis get sent down. So inside this juicy cambium layer, nutrients, water and minerals are running up, and that's what the elephants want. So they strip bark, and you can see they've taken so much bark off this tree. Right here, look. That's how strong elephants are. They've used their tusks and they've pulled all of this marula off. And we've actually put some metal here to try and protect the tree. Once a tree gets completely ring-barked all the way around, the damage is done and the nutrients can't move up and down the tree. Sadly, the tree cannot survive. So I don't think this one is completely ring-barked yet, but we have signs of the elephant right here. Look at that. This is slightly different from the impala one I showed you earlier. Relatively fresh. It's okay for us to touch dung. We would never touch carnivore scat, but I'm going to break this for you and you can see how incredible. Elephant dung is really, really important to the ecosystem. They're not very good digesters. Elephants will eat and eat and eat all day. This is called bulk feeding. So what that means is that they are not selective. They're going to continue and they only digest about 40% of what they eat. So the rest comes out in the form of dung. There we go. Hopefully, we might bumble ahead and see some elephants.
Well, look at these little lions definitely settling down now and starting to groom a little bit. You know, they've been walking quite a bit this morning and they have been walking through a bit of grass. The grass has been wet, so they've got a bit of like mud on them. So I think they're just trying to clean themselves off a little bit. Oh, and just as I say that, they start getting up. Hi, Chi. Yay, I'm so glad we got to show you those lines you really wanted to see. Have a look at this. The sun is literally just coming up over the mountains behind us, and it's hitting that cub right now. As we speak, the sun is just getting to his spot now. I'm sure the lions are happy to warm up a little bit as well. Cheng, the time here in Africa now is just before 7:30 in the morning. So, as I say, the sun is just creeping up over the mountains. It rose a little while ago, probably about close to an hour ago. But the mountains on our right-hand side are quite steep, so the sun is only just popping up over those mountains now. See, he's just walked into the sunlight. So for those of you who are just joining us now, these are 5 youngsters that have been left behind by their mothers, probably while the adults go off hunting, and they have been naughty and wandered away from where the mother left them. $10.22. So the rest of this pride is somewhere. There are another 3 lionesses. One of the lionesses has some very small cubs at the moment, which we haven't seen for a little while. We're not too sure where they are. And then the 2 adults from these cubs are also somewhere. As I say, they must have left them to go off hunting. And then there's the 2 males as well that are part of this pride, and the dominant males of this pride. And again, we're not too sure, but they all should be somewhere in this area around us. But for now, I'm following. There they go. Nancy, they have actually been calling for the rest of the pride already. They've been making a soft little contact call to try and find out where their mothers have gone. I say mothers because there are 2 lionesses that are the mothers of these cubs, and they probably went hunting together. So yes, they have actually been calling for them already.
Righty, we're still hopefully hot on the tracks of our leopard, but as yet not anything. One of the things that is used quite frequently out here by leopards, this is a bit of a kind of a dung drive at the moment, is buffalo dung. Now, this is a piece of buffalo dung. Doesn't smell bad. It's just like sort of cow dung, and it's probably about 3 or 4 days old. There we are. And what leopards do, and it's quite disconcerting to watch, is that they eat it. They'll lick it and eat it, and then they'll roll in it. Now, I think they roll in it in order to cover their scent when they're hunting, and I think they eat it because there must be some kind of beneficial bacteria, a bit like having a yogurt, if you like, to line your stomach with good bacteria. And then another really interesting thing, and there are not a lot of insects around at the moment, is that thing there. And you can see that the termites have got into the dung and they are slowly eating it away. And so when you pick up a piece of dung like this, you don't just kind of discard it, because there's a whole little ecosystem going on in here. So I'm going to put it back together and then replace it where it was on the ground. And leave the little termites, whose right to life is as great as anything out here, and see if we can't find something else. Drive slowly on here. There's a nice bird up there. Just on top there. Tamsini, yes, dung plays an extremely important role in the ecosystem. It's a massive fertilizer. So if you think about thousands of buffalo walking around here. If you think about the elephants, some of which will produce 150 kilograms of dung a day, depositing their fertile deposits all over the reserve on a daily basis, you can imagine how much fertilizer and how many nutrients they are putting into the soil as they go. So dung plays a massively important role out here in the ecosystem. If you were to remove all of the dung put down by the herbivores, especially out here, I think you'd find that the general area would become very nutrient deficient very quickly. That was a hornbill. You can see exactly which one. I think it was a yellow-billed hornbill, a red-billed hornbill. I couldn't see from where the sun was shining. And so we shall continue down this road and see if we can find some more tracks.
So we have a grey heron here, so you'll just notice all the bits of white like on the chest. If you look around the bill, there's a bit of yellow and then a bit of black on top of the head. But on top of that, so we were following the leopard down and they were heading down to a waterhole, but other than that beautiful heron, is if we move slightly off to the right here, you'll notice there's a few hippos in this waterhole. So basically, we are waiting for the leopards to hopefully come down and to drink water. It might be that they have decided to turn around. We couldn't follow them anymore. But how special is this? Now, hippos, I don't know if many of the viewers know too much about them, but so at night time, they move out earlier in the morning. When the sun starts getting up or coming up, that's when they'll move back into the water and they'll rest up for the day. But at night, they'll move out and they'll go and feed off the grass, and eventually they'll come back into the water. But you can see this one's eyes closed, nostrils just above the water, just to breathe. And this is where they might stay the whole day before they eventually later on this evening start moving out again. You'll see some of them in the back, their heads might be under the water, and it might take a few minutes. So sometimes they'll be up to 6 minutes under the water before they come up again, and then they'll blow the water out of the nostrils. You just hear like a and all the water is out, and then they'll breathe again and go under the water. And sometimes they might even lie with their heads on top of one another, just whenever they might be sleeping in the water. You'll also notice there's also a little breeze blowing. So look at the ripples on the water close to the hippo. So the wind's actually coming down from just behind the hippo and almost moving down in the direction that its head is facing, in a southerly direction, southeasterly direction. So the wind is coming down in this direction. So I'm thinking those leopards might even eventually start heading into the wind later on. Also, those lions we are looking out for could possibly head into the wind like that, because you can imagine if they move in and they do smell something, there could be a potential meal early in the morning if they do move. But for now, I mean, it's a beautiful waterhole. We might just spend a bit longer time here and see if there's any chances of, as we mentioned, these leopards coming down, or possibly even elephants coming down for a drink, or any of the other prey species, more common species. You'll notice there's a few of these little black birds with a bit of grey and white. And those are the blacksmith lapwings. So their call sounds like a blacksmith on an anvil. It's like ding, ding, ding. But for now, while we're waiting here, we're going to send you to somewhere where there's some elephants moving.
End up at a watering hole too, but we finally found the breeding herd of elephants that we've been talking about, and I've been searching for them since yesterday afternoon. Now, we aren't far from Leopard Dam, a few hundred meters to our south, And these elephants like to do a thing every single day is after a full night of feeding, they need to go and have a drink. So all the herd when they're out in the open so you can see the tiny babies. But right now we are looking at two of the young bulls who are just sort of keeping to the outskirts of the herd. Hello, young fella. Relaxed. He's quite right behind the vehicle and not bother at all. And this is. But first, a mouthful of tape. You must see the excitement in some of these elephants' sort of body language as they get closer and closer towards the water. And you'll see why, is that the elephants are the happiest when they get there. But I don't want to spoil too much for you. We'll just wait for that scene to unravel as the morning goes on. Right, seems as though there's wonderful animal. I'm going to go across to one you haven't seen.
All right, so interesting twist in this little story here. These 5 young lions have come across a bachelor herd, a group of old big male buffalo. Have a look at that. So the buffaloes actually saw one of the cubs and kind of the cub ran away, but there's still another 2 lion cubs on the right-hand side of the road, and they're only 10 meters away from these buffalo, and I don't think the buffalo know that they're there. Now, for any lions, any pride of lions, a buffalo is a huge animal for them to bring down. For 5 little young lions, but again, like this whole morning has been, it's a really good learning curve for these little young lions anyway. These buffalo are probably 5 times the weight of even a big male lion, or maybe 4 times the weight of even a big male lion. A young lion like this, they're probably 10 times the weight, if not even more. These buffalo, look how they've got their noses up. They're smelling the air. I think they've caught scent of these lions. They're much more on edge now. And they're like almost searching around in the grass. I think I just saw one of the lions kind of run away from these buffalo. Yeah, look at that. Oh, wow. These buffalo would be a huge thing for these lions to catch. Look at that. That is just solid muscle. Yeah, it's going to be tough for these lions. Song of the Nightingale. We are on a reserve called andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, and it's it's not in the Kruger National Park. We're about 500 kilometers south of the Kruger. It's a small private. Oh, look at that one. Look right above the buffalo that's on the right hand side of the screen. There's the 2 lions. You can see them just above the buffalo. Look at that. That's amazing. That is incredible. Look at this. Wow. Sorry, so yes, we're on the east coast of South Africa, quite a bit below the Kruger National Park. Oh, there we go. The lions are running away now. Oh, there. The buffaloes have just seen them again. That is 4 scared lions running away. Oh, listen to that. There's lions calling. Okay, there's lions calling down in the valley there. I think that's why the cubs have just run off. All right, I think we're going to start following. If we can get around these buffaloes, we'll start following these cubs and see where they end up. But that is possibly the mothers. I think that might be the lionesses that are now calling. Anyway, we're going to go and have a look there. And for now, we're going to send you over to another big herd of buffalo.
Yes, we've caught the tail end of a herd of buffalo that have come down to the water to have a drink. Our buffalo will drink a lot of water during the winter because the vegetation that they eat is very dry. And in order to extract the nutrients they need from it, they will drink frequently, sometimes twice a day. But if they've got sufficient water... Ooh, somebody's got a fright there. That's interesting. If they do have enough water, they can survive on the most dry, moribund kind of vegetation. And the rest of the herd is mooing away just further down the road there. And in the background you can hear a Cape turtle dove. Proop, 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 proop. Law, it depends whether there are male lions present or just females. I'd say to take down a fully grown buffalo bull, you're going to need at least 4 or 5 female lions, sometimes more, depending on the strength of the buffalo, you know, if he's old or in good condition. If there's a male there, it basically counts for 2 female lions, and it is very helpful when there's a male helping with the hunting of the buffalo. Let's carry on around the corner here. The rest of the herd is there. I think it's probably about 150 of them. These guys are stragglers that have just been at the water after the others. Ooh, hang on a second. There's a nice picture of them here, if we can get it. I hope we can get through here. There are some of the herd now in the water. And you can probably hear them mooing like cattle. Classic sort of buffalo sound, that. And it's just them talking to each other. That might be a calf talking to a cow, begging for milk. This is a lovely, unusually warm winter's morning, I must say. So the buffalo are not afraid to get into the water. So, Law, if we look at that big buffalo over there, that's a good-sized bull. And he probably weighs in the region of 650 kilograms. That big bull will take 5 or 6 females to pull him down, and maybe 4 females and a male. Less than that, they're going to really struggle. He's incredibly powerful. We'll sit here for a little bit longer and then carry on and see if we can find our leopard tracks.
So the first meerkat is out. This is the alpha female, which means it's the dominant female in the group. And actually, yeah, it definitely is. I was just trying to see if you'd actually see her nipples from where she's been suckling. And you'll see she'll probably turn around just now and she'll face towards the sun. The sun is still not on her properly yet. We've got a bit of shadow falling on her from this bush to my right over here. But as the sun rises, the others will start coming out as well. But this is unquestionably the coldest morning we have had in weeks and weeks and weeks. We're just very, very lucky that the wind isn't blowing. We've still got ice all over our equipment. So as we're sitting here, it's probably 0 degrees, just the air temperature. But with a wind chill factor, it'll drop it quite a bit below that. And you see, as she comes out, she keeps looking around, constantly on the alert, and that is looking out for things like leopards, caracal, African wildcat, birds of prey, eagles. Things like those are very, very, very real threats to meerkats. A big predator on meerkats as well in the summer months are things like monitor lizards, these big, big, big lizards that'll actually go down the burrows and catch the babies, and snakes, large snakes. We've got one here called a puff adder. It's a kind of viper, and they will go down the burrows and take pups as well. But now in winter, with these very, very cold temperatures, the risk of attack from those is probably zero, I would say. Sure, but the sand is freezing cold. Freezing cold. Are we just going to spend a bit more time here and just wait for the others to come up?
So we're just having a look at this grey heron. Now, if we have a look at just the soil behind it, you'll notice there's a lot of green, even at the legs. The legs has a lot of green, and around the bill. So remember earlier we said the wind was blowing from the hippos in almost like in a southerly direction, southeasterly direction. And so all the algae that's in the water has moved to the side, and that's why there's like this green rim around the edge of the water. But if we have a look at that heron, I just want to head back to him there. I think that bill and the legs are covered because of course, of all the algae, but he's standing there because he knows that as soon as there's any of the small fishes, maybe some of the frogs, that do move closer to the water's edge, probably be able to see it and then, of course, grab it. While we were here, we actually saw that heron catch a frog. Now, it'd be interesting to see if we spend a little bit more time, if there's a chance, he might be interested in something else. I also imagine early part of the morning being nice and cool, that he is enjoying a bit of the sun there. You'll see on the right there's a blacksmith lapwing that is moving a bit closer as well. So we do have crocodiles on Ngala, but I haven't seen any on this in this particular waterhole that we're looking at now. But normally, so I'd like to use an example. So if we head back to the hippos, you see the way that the hippos are basically lying down in the water. You can only see a little bit of the back and a little bit of the head. So if there was any crocodile in here, it would look similar, but of course they'll have more of a plated skin and probably closer towards the water's edge. And early part of the morning or late in the afternoon when it's nice and cool, they'll move into the sun. So those banks at the back. So from here on, let's go beyond the hippos. Let's head to the bank at the back. You'll see it looks like there's a little edge, a little ridge on the side there, so the crocodiles might possibly head up on there and then use that and flatten themselves and then just warm up with the sun before they eventually go back into the water. But because we haven't seen anything here, we haven't seen any other thing moving in the water, we can say that hopefully, or there might not be any crocodiles in here. If we do see any movement, of course we'll try and have another look, but I think it's only the hippos and possibly a few catfish, maybe a few terrapins. So the terrapins are basically like a water turtle, freshwater turtle, that we do find in these little water systems as well. We might even, close to that hippo, now and again see one popping its head out, but we'll have a look just to notice that. But unfortunately, there are crocodiles here, but I don't think there's any in this particular waterhole that we are looking at. So I think while we possibly carrying on with our search, we're going to send you back to some more, I think, hippos.
Swim out. We do have hippos. They've just submerged because that's exactly what hippos do. Wait just a moment and they're going to pop back up, because the exciting thing is they have a baby with them. There we go. This is the adult, but there's a youngster here. There's a young calf. And from what I can see, it looks like they're having some swimming lessons. The youngster's learning how to move about in the water, which actually isn't swimming, because hippos don't swim. But they need to learn how to move around the water body, because hippos are very water dependent. They spend all day in the water, being quite lazy and not doing much else. They're resting because they come out the water and they feed at night time. Hello, youngster. You see how small that little one is? I think it's just learning how to stay a little bit further away from mom, to not be so attached to mom's side. Hippos can stay under, on average, an adult, anywhere between 5 to 6 minutes. That's how long they can hold their breaths for. They're very well equipped at holding their breath, submerging, and staying underwater. Not using much energy, just staying under the water, keeping warm, and resting. Because they have such heavy, bulky bodies, being in the water helps them save energy and stay afloat. Woo, you're asking if hippos are very powerful. Yes, they are extremely large animals, woo. They're very, very heavy, and the males are much bigger than the females, of course. And they can move extremely fast on land. So although they don't look it, they can actually run quite fast when they want to. It can be about 40 kilometers per hour that they can run if they're charging you. So although they look clumsy, they can charge. They have huge tusks in their mouth and very powerful jaws. A male can weigh anywhere up to 3,000 kilograms. A female normally comes in at about 1,500 kilograms. That's a lot of body weight to come running at you. So yes, they're very, very powerful animals. You don't want to get in between a hippo and a water body. That would be a very, very dangerous idea. They're very relaxed. They're probably enjoying the warmth from the sun. Okay, so we're going to stay and enjoy our hippos for a little bit longer.
So the second meerkat is just busy popping out. The one that we are focused on is the alpha female, and further across to the left-hand side there's another one that's just now. Reason I'm keeping my distance, these are very, very relaxed around people. "37 has just said the meerkats are so cute," and I can't agree with you more. They are absolutely adorable little animals. One thing that I love leading on from that is how many people think they're much larger than they actually are. And meerkats, you'll use myself there as a idea of size, they only stand about that tall. So they're not big animals, they're very, very small animals. But very often, when you're looking at them, or films that are made are from ground level looking up at the meerkat. So people have this impression that they're a lot larger than they actually are. But they're very small animals, but super, super, super cute. And as I was saying earlier, we try to keep our distance. These animals are very relaxed around people, but you really want to watch them exhibiting their natural behavior rather than being influenced by us. RNP has asked, why do meerkats have pups and not kittens? That's a very interesting question in terms of naming things. They're called meerkats, but they're not cats at all. These are actually more dog-like in reality than cat-like. So the name meerkat is kind of misleading in terms of that, but that's why these are called pups and not kittens. The other name for them is, some people know them as suricats, but again, that end part of the name, cat, is misleading. And the name suricats actually stems from their scientific name, suricata. So there we go. Look at them facing the sun. So this time of the morning is very, very important for them. That alpha female, which is the one on the right hand, on the left hand side of the screen there. I'm just getting my left and right mixed up here. That's the alpha, and because she's got pups, she needs to get out and go feeding. Liz has just asked, are they using the tail for balancing while they're standing like that? Absolutely, yeah, and you can see it very, very clearly. They form a little tripod like that, and that tail is very important for that balance. You can get meerkats that sometimes have their tails bitten off, at least part of their tail bitten off. I've seen that, and they can stand okay without it, but I think while they've got their tail's a very important support for them. And it's a very important signaling mechanism. I just want to wait longer and see. There should be 6 in this group, so we're just going to spend some time here and wait for the rest of them to come out as well.
There's something really peaceful about staying here with these hippos. Staying near this calm water body and watching the hippos go up and down and up and down. They're actually able to close off their nostrils, and the youngsters are able to completely fold down their ears so that when they do submerge, they don't risk any sort of way of getting water in and potential drowning. Lacy hippos don't actually swim. They can't swim. Their bodies are not really equipped for swimming. So what they normally do when they're an adult is have their legs positioned on the bottom of the water body. So they're just keeping themselves buoyed up, floating, if you like. They can move their legs, but it's definitely not swimming. So I think what's happening here is this little one, this calf, is just learning how to move in the water and how to be apart from mum. I think that's what we were watching earlier, but now they're both together again. Because young hippos do face danger from older dominant male hippos, which can be very aggressive. So I think mum was just ensuring that this little one knows how to move its body in the water. Okay, so there's some vultures in a tree nearby. So I think we're going to turn around and investigate soon. Crocodiles a threat, Erica? Potentially they could be, because crocodiles have very strong jaws. They have one of the most powerful bites in the animal kingdom. But hippos and crocodiles, I can't see any crocodiles at the minute, but we do have them around this dam, Erica. They live sympatrically, and what that means is they share the same habitat and the same geographical location. So crocodiles mainly hunt fish. They are opportunistic though, and of course they will take down antelopes and any mammals or birds that come by. But predominantly they feed on fish in the water body. So they could be a threat to a baby hippo, but they generally tend to avoid one another. Hippos avoid the crocodiles, and crocodiles avoid the hippos. There was actually an incident in this very dam, Chitwa Dam, where a hippo actually snapped a crocodile in half, because hippos also have very strong jaws. So they could harm one another, but normally they just avoid one another because they share the same habitat, but they have different food sources. Hippos are herbivores. They feed on the vegetation around the dam, and crocodiles are carnivores. It's not in their best interest to harm one another. If you're an organism living out here, you don't want to risk injury. You don't want to be hurt. Okay, so I'm going to go and investigate these vultures, see if there's any predators around, and you guys are going to go over to the meerkats.
So, just before we went earlier, I wanted to mention that one of the reasons why they're coming out so early now, even though it's very, very, very cold, and it's still very cold here, is that because she's lactating, so she's got tiny little pups underground. She had them about a week ago, and they should be coming out probably in the next, well, definitely in the next week, I'm hoping. But so she needs to get enough sustenance. She needs to eat enough to keep her energy up so she can produce milk for these pups. And that's one reason why she's going to go foraging. And when they go foraging, they're going to be looking for any kind of protein source. So they will eat birds' eggs. We've got some bird species that are actually nesting now at this time of the year. There's some birds called sandgrass. So they'll eat eggs like that. They love scorpions. Meerkats dream of eating scorpions at night, I'm sure. They will dig out little worms. Then we've also got these really big crickets here called armored ground crickets, and we'll actually try find one. They're not doing well now with this very cold weather that we've had, but we might still be lucky and find a couple around, so we'll try find one. Bit has just asked, will they bring something back from foraging for the babysitter? No, they won't. The babysitter will actually forage in the immediate area of the burrow system. So that's a good question there. It would be unfair, and I don't think they're thinking in terms of being fair or not, but it wouldn't work from an ecological perspective, from energy perspective, to leave a single animal, the same animal, every single day. So normally they will swap that, but the foraging in this area of the burrows is actually still not that bad. So although they go out, they forage, they'll come back, they won't bring food with, but that meerkat that gets left behind, when the group arrives back in the afternoon, they'll be able to forage around here as well. And also that meerkat that stays here is not using a huge amount of energy. It's not moving a lot, it's staying in one place, or it's down the burrows where it's nice and warm. So the energy requirements of that meerkat will be less than the energy requirements of the group that's actually out foraging. Sure, it's still, and on ground level, the sand is still bitterly cold. Freezing cold. So I think these meerkats are enjoying every bit of sun that they can get at the moment. Meter of Sunshine has just asked about the African rainy season and the weather. Yeah, so it's interesting. I love that, because that question, because the Kalahari system, this area that we're in here, is very, very, very different. There we go, John.
We've come to a stop here, waiting. I'll tell you why we've stopped here. There are some buffalo being hunted by some lions a little bit further to the north of us. We're being updated. They could be coming south into our area, which would be very exciting indeed. So while we do that, we thought we'd show you a little bit about some morning tea. I hope I don't break this tree. It's supposed to be one of the densest woods that we have out here. It is the russet bush willow, or Combretum herreroense. Combretum herreroense. It's always a good word to say in the morning. Herreroense. I'll put these there, and David can show them to you as I walk around. Now, You will read in the books that this makes an excellent tea. Tea, a very popular drink throughout the world, obviously. And I have put these pods in tea, in water, and boiled them up. And I have to tell you, it tastes like dirty water. It's a really poor tea, but they're very pretty pods. And all of the pods of this group of trees, the combretums, have got these 4-winged fruits. But if you look very carefully over here, we found what I suppose might be termed the 4-leaf clover of the combretum world. That one's got 5 wings. Look at that. That surely must be a very lucky pod to have found today. So maybe we'll be lucky with those lions hunting the buffalo. Isn't that gorgeous? Then I'm just going to be quiet for a second. What you can hear there is the beautiful singing voice of the white-browed scrub robin going. Mushroom baby, if I was to tell you all of the birds that we get in this area, we'd be sitting here probably for the next 3 or 4 hours. We've got about, I'd say, a total bird list of birds ever seen in this area, about 320 odd species of birds, which is great. That's just one of them, the white-browed scrub robin. Common birds here, starlings, oxpeckers, herons, swallows, swifts. These are birds that you'll find in various parts of the world, or certainly relatives of those birds in various parts of the world. And then the more colourful ones, we've even got a parrot species here called the brown-headed parrot, which has got a bright green back, and bee-eaters, which are very colourful, and then which animals that are, or birds that are quite familiar would be the evolutionary equivalent of hummingbirds we have here, and they're called sunbirds. We're going to go back to the lions now.
Right, welcome back. So, these 5 youngsters have finally found their mother. She's the one right at the top of the hill there. You can see she's quite a bit bigger than the others. But there's only one. I don't know where the other one is. But we are just following them. I'm just going to move up ahead again. We are just following them, and it's quite possible that she might lead all the youngsters to the other female. So it'll be interesting to see anyway. But it's been amazing to spend, I mean, we've been with them for almost 2 hours now. It's been amazing to spend 2 hours in the life of a young lion. They have chased animals, they have been chased by buffalo, and now finally they've managed to find their mom. Okay, I'm going to stop in the next few seconds just so that we can zoom in a little bit on her. Look at that, that's the mother right in the middle. Oh, this is really special. So they could have been left alone for a good few hours, and they were extremely happy to see her when they did find her. You should have seen them. They were jumping all over her, and even now, look how that one goes right underneath the mother, like rubbing up against her, like almost caressing her with their tail, like the tail goes underneath her chin. It's all such important little social bonding aspects here. I'm just going to move up ahead again. I'm going to carry on following closely behind these lions, and I'm hoping they might lead us either to a carcass or maybe to the other lioness that's maybe still busy hunting. It'll be very interesting to see anyway, but the mothers have moved some serious distance last night.
So our elephants that we were sitting with decided to come down to Leopard Dam, and they had the world's quickest drink of water. Normally elephants spend quite a bit of time quenching their thirst, but there was a herd of buffalo around too, so maybe they felt a bit nervous with all the young calves. So they had a quick sip of water, and now they're back on their way, heading south and just feeding. So we will try and turn around. Most of the herd of elephants has actually moved behind us, and there's still some more, though, coming out of the thicket, out of the drainage line. I think those are some of the bulls that we saw initially just hanging to the back of the herd. They might have had a drink for a little bit longer. And goes another young elephant, going to catch up with the rest of the group. But it's been a lovely morning, very peaceful and calm in Pridelands. There's a little elephant. Now, my time, elephants can live for a fairly long time. Oh my goodness, so it's actually quite complicated to determine how long elephants live for, but essentially it depends on how long their teeth last. So elephants' teeth wear down over time, but they have a certain amount of teeth that come through, of these beautiful big molars over the years. But in this area, their teeth, I think, wear down quite quickly because of the harsh vegetation that they have to feed on during the winter months. So they eat now at this time of the year, lots of bark on the trees. They're feeding on dry grass, and sometimes there's a lot of soil and sand that's in the food that they're feeding on, which grinds their teeth down quicker. But on average, an elephant can live anywhere between about 50 to 70, or maybe even pushing it 80 years, but somewhere around there. Maybe 60 to 70 years is a bit more accurate. But they live for a very, very long time. Now all the elephants have moved, so we've got to do exactly the same thing. I have to check my mirrors to make sure that there's not an elephant standing behind the car. That wouldn't be a fun thing to reverse into. So I'm going to keep reversing to try and catch up with this herd and see if we can get another view.
So we're back here at andBeyond in Ngala. So we just found this whole herd of zebra moving down. Now, if I have a closer look, it looks like it might be all male. So it's a little bachelor herd that are together. You can see how they just formed the line, and now they're moving away from us. Now, early part of the morning, they might have been standing in this open area because of the sunlight. Just look at that one turning around. Now, zebras are one of my favorite animals, and just if you look at the patterns of the stripes, you'll notice how each one of them, as they are moving along, see from the left to the right, you'll notice that each and every one of them has different stripes, or a different stripe pattern to one another. So like our fingerprints, they are very, very unique. See, that one probably has a bit of an itch on the back, and it's just maneuvered itself under that tree to give itself a little scratch. So we're going to try and stay with them for a little while longer and see where they might be off to. They might just move to another open area. We'll try and see if we can reposition for another view.
We found a crocodile for you all. We were just talking about crocodiles, and we spotted one slowly slinking its way through the dam. Now, this is a large crocodile, definitely an adult. Impossible for me to tell if it's male or female from here. Crocodiles are very, very difficult to sex, but it's definite. Can you hear the hippos? That's not my tummy. That is the hippos. Now, crocodiles are reptiles, which means that they have a very unique way of survival. They rely on the energy from the sun. They're solar powered. So I think this croc is slowly using his tail as a rudder, a powerful rudder, to move across the dam to find the perfect sunbathing spot. Beautiful. And crocodiles and alligators can get confused. A lot of people get confused between them because they look extremely similar, but they are different. And one of the main things to look at is the snout. Alligators have a very wide snout, almost in the shape of a U. Crocodiles have a very sharp, pointy snout in the shape of a V. So we're going to leave this dam now, but I believe James has found something for you all.
We've got a view here of the lions that are hunting the buffalo. Now, I can't get any closer at this stage, but we're going to wait here because it seems that the buffalo are moving down this way and they are being pushed this way by the lion pride. That looks like a lioness and a youngster, probably around about, I'm going to say 8 months old, maybe a year. It's quite far away still, but this is really exciting. In fact, there are 3 lions up there. Oh, that's beautiful. Hello, Mao. No, I'm not scared that the lions are going to start hunting me. There are 2 reasons for that. The first is that I'm built like a very small sparrow, and so I don't think that they would get much meat off me. And the second reason is that they are very used to vehicles and people. So this particular reserve has got a lot of human activity in it, and they just don't see human beings as something to eat. And so as long as you're careful, you always have to be careful, as long as you're careful and respectful, there's no real danger from the lions to human beings. Unless you were walking around at night. And if you were walking around at night, well, you'd be very silly. The lions are settling now on that termite mound. That's what they're lying on.
It's got this beautiful herd of springbuck that have just moved into view below the meerkat burrows here, or down in the valley beyond the meerkat burrows rather. It's a very common antelope in these areas. Very, very, very well adapted to these arid regions. And it's a good example of an antelope that doesn't actually need to drink water. And coming back to a question earlier from one of the viewers was, do I think there would be leopards down in these areas? So when you look at that herd of springbuck, you see they're very relaxed. They're feeding. There's no alarm calls going on there. But that doesn't necessarily mean there isn't a predator around. If you look at it like this, imagine if those animals knew where all the predators were all the time. The predators would have an incredibly difficult time actually catching anything. So very, very frequently, you'll go out, you'll be watching a herd of animals, and then before you know it, there's this chase going on, and it's just cheetah and impala, or cheetah and springbuck, or lions or leopards or whatever. So, Jack Be Happy has just asked a really cool question there. Why are they not afraid of people? So if you look at where we are and where our colleagues are as well, where they're following lions and buffalo and things like that, these animals have got used to people over many, 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 many years. And it's taken a long time to get them to be this relaxed. Importantly, they don't see us as a threat. And they also don't see us as any source of food or anything. So we just really a part of the environment. It's like them seeing any other animal that they're not afraid of. And it's a real privilege. If you look at these meerkats in the foreground here, look how they're relaxed they are. This is so special to be able to view animals like this.
So welcome back at andBeyond Ngala. So as we were looking out for these lines, we spotted this male ostrich in the distance. So you'll see right in the middle, it does look like he's looking back, but look at the size of him. You'll notice also quite a few unique colors, very red bill, long grey neck, and then from halfway down the neck, that dark black feathers, and of course a little bit of white towards the end of the tail. But you don't really see a lot of ostriches, especially up in this area. Just now and then you might find one male, or possibly a male with 2 or 3 females with. But really nice to spot them, and it's a really rare sighting. Now let's have a look and see where he might be off to. Now, I can imagine with this ostrich, he's probably in this big open area because it's nice and open. So, of course, you can use it as a bit of a vantage point, some of these higher areas, just to scan and see if there's any potential predators, so that at least if he spots it from a distance, he can move away. The other thing is, I also can imagine with an area as open as this, there's also possibly a lot of food available for him, just to move in between the rocks here and the tall grass and just pick up some food as it's moving through this area. Now, for those who don't know too much about an ostrich, it is the largest and the heaviest bird that we find on the planet. And unfortunately, because of its size and the structure of its wing, it can't fly, but of course it can run really, really fast. And especially seeing an ostrich running open in this plane, I'm actually hoping that it might start moving for us so we can have a look at that. But really just nice to see.
Now, this is quite interesting, something that we typically see at this time of the year here on Pridelands in the Greater Kruger National Park in South Africa. And I know that Lauren was showing you a tree that had been ring-barked by elephants. But here we sit and we watch an elephant as it tears back the outer bark to expose the nice cambium layer. You can see that sort of lighter color, also where bits of red are. That is what the elephant wants to eat. It doesn't want to eat the outer hard, tough bark, excuse me, that doesn't have much nutrients in it and is rather hard on the teeth, but this is a whole lot more pleasant. And look how easy it is for that elephant to strip away the bark. You can hear those tearing sounds. Now using its foot to just help it with a bit of leverage and cut off the piece there. Now, I know this does seem to be quite destructive, and there are lots of things that you can do to try and protect some of the tall trees, but it's not always that elephants will completely ring bark a tree. Like this tree, you can see there's still bark covering the entire right side of it, so it will still live, and trees heal fairly quickly too. So they will exude a gum, a sap, which helps almost act as a band-aid and will help repair the tree as quick as it can. It might be a bit slower at this time of the year because there isn't a lot of water around. Oh wow, did you see how it used its tusk there? So you could very easily see how those tusks, the ivory or the teeth, the incisors of the elephant are used in a different way to how other animals use their teeth. I think that's an amazing adaptation for an elephant, and it definitely is invaluable to its life during dry seasons and trying to feed on food that has more nutrients. Now, there's another elephant coming in. I wonder if it has heard the tearing sounds of the bark and has thought, right, I need to get in on this action. That sounds delicious. It is too. Look, this bull is a little bit more dominant and pushing him away and saying, right, thank you for doing the hard work. I'm going to finish this off. So it's quite typical to see with bulls, but you see it with the cows too, where the more dominant or the bigger and stronger you are, you can kind of just force other animals out and reap the rewards. And I suppose that's like an ice lolly A delicious, juicy treat for an elephant at this time of the year. Here you go. Didn't like that outside piece, so just stripped a smaller slither of the cambium layer, and now popping it straight into its mouth. Now, I've been trying to show you a young elephant calf all morning long. We're going to give it one more bash and try and get ahead of the herd so I can show you the precious animals.
Now, we've got about 6 lions atop that termite mound, and they're watching the herd of buffalo move slowly past. Now, the buffalo are in this little gully, and whether or not the lions will come down and try to hunt them, or whether or not the rest of the pride is still after them, I'm not sure at this stage. 10-cent viewer, I suppose the chances of, the situation in which a lion could take down a buffalo on its own would be where it was a buffalo calf. So it was a very young buffalo, then yes, a lion could take down a buffalo on its own, but not an adult. I think it would be very unlikely. Maybe a very old buffalo cow and a very big male lion, then you might have the buffalo being killed by only one lion, but in general, it's going to take 4 or 5 of them to take down an adult. And this pride was hunting the buffalo last night. We heard them around our camp, and it's a big pride, more than 5. I think there were 6 lionesses with them last night and a male. They still didn't manage to bring down a buffalo. So, buffalo are formidable, and although they're little calves within this herd, you'll find that the rest of the herd is tremendously protective over its members. And so what the lions want to try and do is scatter them, make them all panic, and they can get down on either a youngster or a straggler from the herd, take that down, kill it, move away as the rest of the herd comes in to try and defend it, and then move in and have their meal a bit later. That's normally how they're successful. But if the buffalo hold together, if they maintain their front, and if they keep the youngsters in the middle, if they keep the vulnerable ones in the middle, the lions have a very hard time taking down a buffalo because they won't stand a charge from the buffalo. So if the lions are faced by a united front of buffalo, they won't stand down a charge. They'll move away. They'll run away. Because a buffalo will toss a lion up into the air and horn it to death if possible. Silence. What we have here is the Nkuhuma pride. So this is the pride of lions that we follow most frequently. And they don't have male lions in the pride specifically. They are or fall into the territory of the Avoca coalition of male lions. That's 3 male lions. And the Avoca's territory, here's a lion coming much closer now. Don't know if you can see it there. It's just making its way through this woodland. Can you see it? No. I think it's just behind the tree that you're in front of. Let's just see. I think it'll probably go back up onto the termite mound. Let's keep watching. So the Avoca coalition of male lions has got 2 or 3 prides within its territory. This is just one of them, and that means the males won't be with them all the time. They'll alternate between the prides and sometimes be on their own marking territory. We do know, however, that there is at least 1 adult male with this group. So he could be in amongst the woodland here, also stalking. You can see it just underneath where that, can you see where the branch goes over the top there? Yeah. The lion's just underneath there, waiting. Beautifully camouflaged, perfectly coloured for the winter vegetation. And I suspect we'll only see her if she moves. There, she's moving now. Yeah. You got her. Now, that rather disturbing sound you can hear in the background is not a buffalo or a lion, it's an impala, which is our most common antelope, and they make a sound that is much more terrifying than they are. We're going to wait here. We're going to see what unfolds while you go off to the Kalahari and spend a bit more time with those extremely cute surrogates.
So we now have 5 of the 6 meerkats in this group that have come out to sun themselves. One reason why we just walk around this burrow system at a comfortable distance like this is also to check for tracks, because we obviously don't sit with these animals at night. They go down, they go sleep, but we don't know what's happened at these burrows during the course of the evening. And we had another group that we were following. Some of you may recall that colony, a badger, a honey badger, actually got into the colony, dug the pups out. We didn't see it, but you could tell from all the tracks what had happened over there. So that was quite sad. So this is, and we'll never be able to prevent that, and we wouldn't want to prevent it, because that's part of these natural systems. But getting here in the mornings and just doing a scan around really gives us a better understanding of what may have been happening during the course of the evening. Cindy has just asked, how many pups would these meerkats have? And so there's 2 sides to that question over there. They can have 4 or 5 pups at a time, okay? But the bigger question there, I guess, would be, what is the likelihood of those pups surviving until adulthood? And that is a very, very interesting side there, because although she could have 3, 4, 5 pups at a time, that survival rate can be very, very, very low. And it's not uncommon that 50% or more of those pups don't survive until adulthood. Being such a small little animal, they are hugely susceptible to predation on a number of different levels. Then you add drought conditions. We're not in a drought condition now, but if we had a drought condition, that would mean food resources are really, really hard to come by. They're at a premium, and that would impact on the ability of these youngsters when they start learning to forage, to get enough food to survive. You can get disease as well that impacts on these animals. So really, there's 2 sides. Get how many she can actually have and how many actually survive until adulthood, and those can be vastly different. The other thing by us spending time with these meerkats and with any of the animals is that it just reinforces that habituation, and that they just get better and better every single day that we spend here. They realize there is no threat to them. We don't intend any harm. But I think critically as well, that they don't see us as any added benefits to them. We just need to be, for all intents and purposes, another species in the environment that has no benefit to them or no harm to them. Anna-Marie, this little has just asked, how close am I to the meerkats? This alpha female that's just moved across onto this mound of sand, she is now 9 paces from me. The one closest, or actually the furthest away from me is, I'd say, 17 yards, maybe 16 yards. So, it's not very, very close, but it's also not too far. It's a nice, comfortable distance. You can see they're very relaxed. They're just continuing with their sunbathing. You're kind of getting some heat over there. And also they're just continuing to do their sentry duty. They're just looking around. You really don't want to put any pressure on these groups. The reason, and some of you may wonder, well, why don't I just sit down all the time in one spot? And I do that a lot as well. But to be able to just have a bit of movement, and not a lot, and nice, just calm, gentle, slow movements, is that they become used to seeing me doing different things over here. So it's not just a stationary object the whole time. They get used to different kind of behavior. And that's very, very important in helping keep these animals habituated for the long term.
Not a huge amount has carried on since you were last here. The lioness that was stalking through the wood has disappeared, perfectly camouflaged as she is. And the lions on the termite mound seem to be very settled at the moment. I can hear the rustling of bushes, and I think that the buffalo are slowly making their way down towards us. But at the moment, things have reached what we call a stalemate, I guess. And as it warms up, what you'll find is that the lions will become less and less enthusiastic about hunting. Kenda, a male lion's jaw is very strong indeed. It's very powerful. It's not as powerful as a hyena's jaws, and probably not as powerful as a crocodile's jaws either. But it's certainly extremely powerful. It's much more powerful than most of the jaws out here. But the real kind of, I suppose the thing with a male lion is that it's all-round power, you know. It's incredibly powerful around the shoulders. It's got huge big canines. It does have powerful jaws. It's got very sharp claws. And so when a male lion is hunting a buffalo, he's using all of those things. He's using the powerful dew claws, or the very sharp dew claws, which will cut into the flesh of the buffalo. He's using his weight, 200 kilograms with a big male lion. He's using the strength in his shoulders, the protection of his mane, the bite force, the dagger-like canine. So he's using all of those things in a hunt. So his bite force is just one in his armory of hunting weapons. These particular lions are using their other tremendous skill, and that is the skill to sleep. They are very accomplished sleepers, our lions. 20 hours a day they'll spend doing the sleeping. Well, down in Maputa land, at andBeyond Phinda, we have got the lions that are not doing the sleeping thing. They are still moving.
Well, these lions are doing anything but sleeping at the moment. They have been constantly walking this entire morning. This is the mother walking towards us. Oh, yes. Okay, this is exactly what we've been waiting for, because we keep getting them onto the screen, and then they carry on walking and we have to move. But this is perfect that she's now settling down in this little sandy patch here. The cubs are also settling down all around her. Now they've come so far, and they were walking with quite a purpose, so I was quite sure that she was leading them actually towards maybe a carcass that she had from last night, but can't seem to find anything. Chung, you're asking if these lions are hunting? Not really, I don't think. She was moving with quite a purpose, like she knew where she was going. Watch this. Oh, she's like snarling at him. Oh. Yeah, so I thought she was actually moving them to somewhere where she had killed an animal last night, but we haven't seemed to find anything just yet. They did chase a little baby warthog quickly. Yeah, they chased a warthog, but that's about all. I think they're moving with purpose somewhere. I'm not too sure where though. We're going to spend a bit more time with these lions here, and we're going to send you across to a rock monitor that's on the move.
found something very cool in the water. It's a monitor lizard, a water monitor lizard. Not so surprising that it's found in the water. But they're also terrestrial. They've evolved just like a crocodile to use that tail as a rudder to assist it swimming through water, but also really, really sharp claws for walking on land. Okay, I think I'm just going to try and go forward again. Bear with me. Little cow, you are asking, do we have snakes? Oh, there's two. There's two. And we do have snakes here, little cow, but because it's winter, it's also difficult to see snakes. It's actually difficult to see snakes in summer as well, due to the vegetation and the fact that they just slink along the grass. I'm going to go forward to try and get a visual of them both. But yes, we do. We have lots of different snakes, from puff adders to black mambas to, excuse our antenna, rock pythons. We also have sort of sand snakes that are not as dangerous as the others I just mentioned. And I love snakes. I'm a big fan of them. But in winter, they tend to go into a deep state of torpor known as brumation. And this is like the snake version of hibernation. It's when they burrow underground and they lower their metabolic rate. They're not doing much. They lower their heart rate, saving energy, and they go into a state of torpor. They can wake themselves up to go and get water, and then they can go back into this state. And that's the reason we don't see too many snakes around here. Now, this looks like some very comfortable sunbathing, I must say. Monitor lizards can be very territorial, and I wonder if this is a male and a female. Very difficult to tell. If they don't sunbathe, if they don't get energy from the sun, just like the crocodile, they won't have energy to move. They won't have energy to expand. I think there's a little... Hold on, I'm going to get my binoculars, but I think we have another reptile for you. We have a little terrapin right here. Just going to give you a quick view of the terrapin right in front of us. Another reptile at the dam. How exciting. So as we enjoy our day of reptiles, we are going to send you across to some flat cats.
Okay, so we've definitely finally got a bit of resting now. That one little young male's busy cleaning himself on his own paw. See how he licks and then wipes his cheek. And as I was saying earlier, you know, with them walking through all this wet grass, look at that, he's lying on top of the other one. So typical of these lions to just lie on top of each other. It doesn't even look comfortable at all. He looks very uncomfortable. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, you know, walking through the wet grass, they've obviously picked up a little bit of mud and sand and dew all over their paws. So now is a good time to just rest in this little open patch of sunlight. Oh, look at the mother snarling and baring her teeth. I think because those ones are all lying so close to her, she's getting a bit irritated. Also, this mother is only the mother of either the 3 older ones or the 2 slightly younger ones. I don't know which ones exactly she is the mother of. Oh. Oh yeah, no, she's irritated now. She's tired of these cubs following her around. Listen to her growling. I don't know if you can hear it. No, she's stopped now. These lions become used to the vehicles and us being in here quite young. Normally when they're about between 2 and 3 months old, the mother starts bringing them out and walking around with them. Oh, look at that yawn. And from then they start seeing vehicles, and they get used to it pretty quickly. They see the behavior from the mother, and they realize that it's not a threat or anything. So it is quite a quick process. And the cameras, well, they don't know they're on camera. Well, while these lions just rest here in the road, we're going to send you across to some tall grass. Sounds interesting.
So we just found looks like a young male lion, as we were doing one of the loops looking for the rest of the pride. Now, I don't think I've seen this particular male before. Now, just have a look at around his ears. You'll notice there's not a lot of mane around. Between the ears, like around his cheeks, on the back of his head. So it is a pretty young male, probably like close to 4 years old. And as I mentioned, I don't think I've seen this one before in this area. And the area where he is sitting is quite a nice vantage point. Now, he is using there to scan around. Oh, she's just probably waking up. He's been lying down there for probably the whole morning. I don't think it's going to be long before he starts moving. Now, he is looking, if he looks off to the right, there's a whole herd of impala down ridge. I'm just going to move this out of the way, but you'll have a look down. You'll notice there's quite a few impala just down in that little gully. And I wonder if he might be interested in them. So normally with young males like this, I think that one impala actually saw the lion. You'll notice the one on the right, how it's standing with his head pointing towards this lion. Also, you might just hear a snorting sound in the back. It's quite far off. It might not be clear, but that's just the impala telling the lion, we've spotted you, and you're not going to surprise us. So, Jenna, lions are pretty much with, especially young males like this, I would say they have a success rate of 40%. So let's say if they try 100 times, out of the 100 times, 40% of the time they'll be successful. Of course, the bigger the pride, the more likely, and also the older they are, the more experience they have, and the more likely they are in order to be successful whenever they hunt. But I would say the normal success rate would probably be around 40%. And also with them, they're pretty lazy animals, so you'll find that for the rest of the day, this male lion might just be in this area only until it starts cooling down, and then he'll start moving. So up to 20 hours it could be before he starts moving again.
We are still with our little marsh terrapin. See? You can see the shell? We call this the carapace. And it just keeps popping his head up to breathe. Reptiles are air breathers. They can't breathe underwater like fish. So when you see a monitor lizard or a terrapin or a tortoise, a crocodile, they all need to come to the surface to breathe, to get air. They live in the water and they can hold their breath, but they can't breathe underwater. Same as sea turtles. All the sea turtles you have in the ocean, they live quite deep, but they also need to come to the surface to breathe air. Beautiful quality. You're asking about our dam. Now, this is a really, really big dam. You get to see the size of it. And it's just a water hole where basically it dries up in the winter. So last winter, believe it or not, this was completely empty. Not a single drop of water, and I could actually drive my vehicle right across here. But due to the heavy rains in summer, it's filled up again. So the water is dirty for many reasons. All the mud and sediment. There's no inflow and there's no outflow. There's no influx of water coming here, fresh water, unless it rains, which is very rare in winter. And of course, we have a ginormous water horse Another one, a hippopotamus, they also defecate in the water. They urinate and defecate all day long, as do many of the animals. And therefore, this creates nutrients, sediment, all sorts of things in the water that will make it look dirty. So it is fresh water, but it's definitely not clean. We would certainly not drink it, that's for sure. Oh. Someone's saying good morning. Now, most hippos like to be on their own, especially males. They like to have the water body to themselves. The females, of course, like to be around other females. Well, oh, you're asking about the monitor lizards, which we've still got a view of its tail, but they have moved off a little bit. And you're asking if they prey on smaller monitor lizards. Not that I know of. They are ferocious predators. They're a lot more ferocious than you would think. They've got great appetites, and they are carnivores. So they'll eat small mammals, rodents, maybe even scrub hare, or a bushveld gerbil, snails, millipedes, even crabs, frogs, and fish, if they can find any. They also eat baby tortoises and terrapins, but they love to eat crocodile eggs. I haven't heard of monitor lizards eating other smaller monitor lizards. It's possible, but I definitely haven't heard of that happening. So unfortunately, we can only see the tail now. Can't quite see where the other ones... Once again, that was not me, but the hippo. What a fantastic sighting around the dam. I think we're going to bumble on forward and see what else we can see.
So there were 5 meerkats out now, and they've been digging a lot at this burrow entrance. So we're going to spend quite a bit more time here, because we also would like to see which direction they head off to go foraging. Because that can change depending on food availability. And you know, if they've foraged in an area for a couple of days, they're almost going to change to a different area. That burrow maintenance, that constant digging, you'll see it when the others come out. They'll start again there. That's very, very, very important, especially probably now more so than ever, that they've got the little pups, and because they need to make sure that they've got enough escape holes, and that they know exactly which ones they can go down and which ones are connected to which ones in the event that predators arrive.
So earlier on, as we were watching this male, we could hear some alarm calls in the background, as well as some of the impala actually stared almost in the direction where this lion is staring in now. So there's a good chance there might be other lions in this area. So we're going to sit with him for the next little while, and hopefully we'll get rewarded with that. But how beautiful is this animal? I think the one thing that often when I do look at a big male lion like this is you always think about how majestic and powerful they are. And I also wonder with this youngster, Silver lining with the males, the reason why they do roar in the first place is in order to establish their territory. So in other words, they're telling all the other lions that this is my area, or especially all the other males, this is my area and they don't want any of them nearby. Also, they're telling the rest of the pride or some of the females in the area that they are here. And so that's their way of finding one another. But for males, if they do roar together, of course, it sounds more impressive. So if there's any other potential young males that are moving into an area to try and take it over, they'll then be scared off because of the noise that's coming from these males. Because just imagine, I mean, the area that we are driving in now, just the area alone that we can drive this morning, is close to 15,000 hectares. So that's 40,000 acres. And imagine if any of the lions are separated from one another, how difficult it would be in order to find each other. But often with those noise, because I mean, if this male would have roared, you'll probably be able to hear him up to 8-9 kilometers at night, or 5 miles. So it's pretty loud as well, and it can travel for quite a far distance. But another thing that I'm wondering here is maybe there could be other members of the pride, but maybe there's a chance that this male has been pushed out of the pride. So normally when they get to 2.5 years, that's when they get pushed out of the pride. This one looks like he might be a lot older than 2.5, maybe close to 4 years. And I wonder also if he hasn't been pushed out. There are a few scars that we've seen on his body. So it's a good chance he's been in a fight or two and probably been pushed out of the pride. And now what he will do is he becomes like this nomadic move. He'll follow these nomadic movements. So in other words, he'll go and scavenge any kill off hyenas, leopard, and just basically he won't have a set territory. He'll just move from one area to another, and all he's trying to do is survive until he can probably get to 6 or 7 years old. And that's when he'll start challenging other males for potentially the rights to mate with females. I think let's spend some more time here, maybe even see if there's any other lions in the area and then come back to him. But I think while we do that, let's send you across to some elephants who also, like the young males, eventually get pushed out of the herd.
We're actually with one such male elephant. He hasn't been kicked out as such just yet. And the kicking out process for the male elephants is, well, it's not quite as severe as it is for the lions. They become independent on their own and they're encouraged to leave. There can be a little bit of violence, but normally it's a mutual parting of ways. And this chap here, I'd say he's about 16 or so. He hasn't quite left the herd because there's a whole herd all around him over here. We left our lions because they started doing what lions do best, and that is absolutely nothing. They went to sleep, the buffalo moved off, and so we moved on to see if we could find something else. And so it is that we came across these elephants. Francie, it can, but not always. So you'll read that an elephant cow has got longer, thinner tusks than a bull, and a bull will often have shorter, fatter tusks. It's not always the case. They also will tell you that a cow's tusks will point down towards the ground as opposed to out like this young bulls do. In general, you can say that, but it's not to say that you will never find a female with tusks that point outwards, or that you'll never find a male with thin tusks. These young males don't have fat tusks at all. Now, the best part of a young bull elephant is that they're curious and they're interested when something unusual happens. So our arrival in the midst of their breakfast, which probably started about 4 hours ago, is interesting to them. And so while a lot of the rest of the herd moved off when we arrived, the young bulls are hanging around because they are curious, and it's just wonderful to spend time around them. Now that's a great question, when, and it's one that we could probably talk about for hours. But in short, and in my opinion, no. Elephants do not destroy their environment any more than any other animal does. If you think of something small like a steenbok, it preys upon small herbs and fruits and that sort of stuff. Those little plants that it eats die when they get preyed upon. An elephant is much bigger, and so the plants that it kills or that it eats sometimes die, sometimes they survive, and they grow in a different form. The big thing to understand here is that in an African environment, the plants and the elephants have evolved together, which means that they have survived for many hundreds of thousands of years, possibly millions of years, co-evolving. And because of that, the plants are tolerant of the elephant's damage. They have learned to cope with it. The other thing to remember is that we don't know how many elephants there were here 500 years ago, what this landscape looked like 500 years ago. And so when we see an elephant pushing over a tree and it looks like something's been damaged, it looks like there's almost a mistake in nature, we'll probably find that that's been happening for hundreds of thousands of years. And it's in fact how this landscape was created. So any animal, if they become too abundant in a confined space, will use too many resources and potentially impact their own population. Obviously, the human population is a great example of that. There are too many of us on planet Earth. We're starting to run out of space and run out of resources. The same goes for elephants, the same goes for termites, the same goes for bees, the same goes for every organism out here. In a natural open system like the one we're in here, you'll find that there will be a natural growth and then decline in populations over time, sometimes over a greater period than even the human lifespan. So we might not notice it. But if you look at it carefully, and you look at a lot of other ecosystems, that's generally how it goes. And what we call that is a dynamic equilibrium, where numbers of animals will oscillate over long periods. I hope that answers your question. I think it would be very shallow to say, yes, elephants damage their environment.
Welcome back everyone to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. And these lions have definitely stopped now. They're definitely not moving too much anymore, as you can see. But yes, to all the 10 cent viewers, please remember to send through your questions. Either leave your questions in the comments section or with hashtag WildEarth. I'd love to answer your questions about these lazy lions or anything else in general. These cubs have had a good long morning of walking, so I'm not surprised that they are tired and resting now. Silver lining, she is, firstly, 2 or maybe 3 of these cubs are not hers. But still, she's, she doesn't want, she probably feels like the cubs don't need to lie right next to her. I mean, that one cub is lying with his paws lying on top of hers, So she probably just wants a little bit of space to herself. Oh, it's beautiful when she looks at us. They've just got such beautiful colored eyes as well. There's another one yawning at the back there, so he might get up and come and join the little huddle of the others on the side of the road soon. But for now, we'll send you over to a meerkat that's on the remove.
Cats are just starting to move out. The alpha female was right at the very, very front. And remember I was saying that she's the one that's got really, really important food requirements now to keep her energy up, because she is lactating. So she needs to be supplying the youngsters with enough milk. And it's very, very important that she gets enough food, especially now in the heart of winter, very, very cold temperatures, burning through a lot of energy. So it's super, super important for her to get enough food. Sean Mayer said, is this a live broadcast, as she has her doubts? This is 100% a live broadcast. We are sitting here in this gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous place with these meerkats and just watching them go foraging. This is just incredibly special, but it is totally live. And yeah. So I've got something fun to show you over here in terms of one of their food items. I'm just going to cut across here a little bit. So this beautiful, absolutely gorgeous animal here is called an armored ground cricket, and this is actually one of the food items that these meerkats will be feeding on at the moment. Not a lot of them around, unfortunately. This cold weather has been, over the past 3 weeks that we've had, has been slowly but steadily killing them off. So there's not that many around. This guy's actually totally relaxed. He's starting to groom himself. He's cleaning his little feet. And when the meerkats eat them, they actually tend to just eat the back part everywhere. It's nice and juicy. They actually give off this liquid, this bright yellow liquid, if they feel threatened. So when I picked this one up, I picked him up very, very, very gently, so as not to disturb him or excite him. And so he's now just sitting on my hand, totally relaxed, still getting a bit of sun. And yeah, so when these meerkats are foraging, if they find one of these out in the open, they will eat it. These are all sitting up on the trees and the bushes now, but I had to walk around quite a bit to actually find this one. But about 3-4 weeks ago, there were thousands upon thousands around, and totally harmless to people. But it's just nice to be able to show you one of the food items that these meerkats will be looking for now.
I tell you what, an armored ground cricket is the kind of creature that you will see in nightmares, and much more terrifying, in my opinion, than this lovely bull elephant. This is a slightly younger one than the one we were looking at earlier. He's probably about 13 years old. And you can see his head is up, indicating that he is, well, just aware of us and saying, well, I don't know why you're here or what your intentions are, but I'm just going to move off and stand with my older friends. The other two are just behind us, 16 or 17-year-olds. I'll just turn around here. Lacey, we don't see elephants every day, no. I mean, I wish we did. But because we're in this open system, which is 8 million acres in extent, 3.5 million hectares, the elephants come and go as they please. We can't operate in that whole area. So sometimes they're with us on Djuma Private Game Reserve, where we are now, and sometimes they're not. They don't listen to human property laws. But I'd say probably 70% of the days that we're here, we have the privilege of spending time with elephants. It really is just a delight. Especially the young bulls like this one. Here comes the 13-year-old, still watching us. Well, Dante, an elephant 50 years ago, I suppose it depends on the elephant. If the elephant is now 65, he looked a little bit like the one you're looking at now. But otherwise, if you mean as a species, elephants didn't look any different at all 50 years ago. I think you'd have to go a couple 100,000 years before you found a substantial difference in elephants. That said, if you go to a place like Namibia, in the desert there where elephants live, although it's the same species of elephant, they're much kind of slighter. They look like the marathon running versions of elephants. So they do have a slightly different body shape. And if you go into the forests of West Africa, there's an elephant subspecies there that is a different shape as well. Ooh, a tree is being demolished by an elephant behind us. I can't see it, I can just hear it cracking away. And this elephant was but a twinkle in his father's eye 50 years ago, Dante. No, 10-cent viewer, this particular elephant is not old at all. He looks old because he's got that wrinkly skin, but he's only about 13 years old or so, and he'll live to around about 65. And they've got this wrinkly skin because it increases the surface area of the skin, and what that does for them is it allows them to lose heat more effectively. Something the size of an elephant gains heat very slowly, but once it does gain heat, it's quite difficult for it to get rid of heat. That's why they don't have any hair on them. And that wrinkly skin just helps them to get rid of heat in the hot African bush, and I mean just the metabolic heat that they produce through their endless eating activities. So yes, I mean they look old from the day they're born, but they are not old, obviously, from the day they're born. I know exactly what you mean, though. And I'm pretty sure it's the wrinkly skin. They've moved on to what I describe as their winter forage at the moment. So they're eating leaves and twigs and bark, and if they can, pods that are on the ground. They're not partaking much of grass anymore, unless it's in the shade and it's still green, and that's because it's winter time now. And I imagine for many of you, to hear me describe this kind of climate as winter must be slightly difficult to accept. We don't really have a cold winter here, which is very nice for us, but the vegetation does change. One of the animals that is most effectively coloured for African winter vegetation is the lion.
So we just repositioned the vehicle a bit to have a different angle on this line. But what I want to do is I want us just to move a little bit away from this line, and I want to show you how difficult it is to spot a lion in this grass. Now have a look at the colors around us. You'll notice there's quite a bit of this cream khaki color all around, a very dull color, and that's because of the time of the year, of course. But have a look now how well this lion actually blends into all of this. So if we go back in towards or a little bit closer towards this lion, just notice the color of the mane, especially the color of his face as well as his ears, and just look at how well camouflaged he is. You really have to look hard in order to see him. So see, he's just right to that bush that we see in the middle, just off to the right. You might just notice that little patch of white on his chin that you might even spot there. And imagine with the whole pride, if the grass is really tall and they're lying down on the grass, how difficult it would be to see them. So let's spend some time with him, see if he moves anywhere. But while we do that, let's send you across to a bird of prey.
We have got a bird of prey, a large brown snake eagle, perched right at the top of this tree. I think it's getting ready to hunt. I think it's, when you see a bird of prey, they can actually be quite tricky to identify, especially from a distance. You need to start to pick out key features. And if you look at this individual, it's got bright orange yellow eyes, really, really bright. You see that? It's gorgeous. And that's one key feature of a brown snake eagle. But also, if you get a look at the legs, the feathers don't go all the way down the legs. They stop. It almost looks like it's wearing stockings. Whereas a true eagle, the feathers go all the way down. So that's how you can start to identify what type of bird it is. Now, they're highly visual. So I think this bird is looking for breakfast down on the ground. And they are called snake eagles because they do eat a lot of snakes. They eat other animals as well. They're carnivores, complete carnivores. So it's not just snakes, but they're specialized at hunting snakes. Isn't he beautiful? In raptors, the word raptor actually comes from Latin, rapiere, and it means to grab or to seize or to carry away. So the English language has translated that to raptor. And they use their powerful, sharp talons, which you can't really see from here, and a really, really sharp beak that you can see here. And normally they grab or seize or carry their prey using the talons. And that's why they're called raptors. There's actually 83 different species of raptors in South Africa. And 53 can be found in the Kruger Park. So raptors would include any eagles, snake eagles, hawks, kites, falcons, even owls. And vultures can be considered raptors as well because they eat carrion. They have sharp talons and beaks. Okay, we're going to keep bumbling, see what else we can find, but we are going to send you back across to James and his elephants.
Our elephants are all around us now, but we're staying with these two sort of 16-year-old young bulls, just because they're a little bit more confiding than the others. The others are down in the gullies looking for fresh vegetation. And then our 13-year-old pal seems to have relaxed quite nicely, and he's down digging a few interesting bits of grass out with his foot. Let's see if we can't get a little bit closer to him, because it's quite interesting watching them feed like that. And they grab a bit of grass with their trunks, and then they kick it out. Oh, hang on. Let's wait here, actually, because there's one coming up behind us. Here comes a big cow. Hello, butterfly. The texture of an elephant's skin, I've touched an elephant's skin before. It's hard. It's very hard. It's like really hard leather. Oh, that's an elephant cow. And she's very unlikely to have an interaction with us like the bulls do. She will either warn us and then move off. She's watching us carefully now. See how she lifts her leg like that, just to make sure that we are not going to cause any trouble. Seth, elephants don't get sunburn, no, and that's because they've got a lot of melanin in the skin. That's what gives the skin the grey colour. Some elephants do exhibit albinism. In other words, they have patches. There's a young elephant going crazy through there. It'll be a little one who's not being allowed to have any milk. So some elephants don't have melanin in the skin, or they have patches of skin without melanin, and that gives them a condition called partial albinism, and those patches can become sunburnt. Just going to turn around here and see if we can see that little one creating a ruckus with his family. I think they're in this thick bush, but we'll just have a quick look and see down through this gap. No, yeah, we're not going to make it through here. The only thing to note here is that elephants look like they are bumbling creatures that don't really have any agility. But if you watch them carefully, they're able to climb up pretty steep banks much faster than you or I could. Something to bear in mind if you're ever on foot in the bush. Now, a chamber of horrors. We go back to the Kalahari, to the armoured ground cricket.
So, what we've got here, and it's really interesting to see, leading on from that big armoured ground cricket that we had that was so peacefully relaxing and cleaning himself on my hand is this one over here. What's happened here is this one has actually been impaled by a bird. It's a bird, we call it, one of the common names is a butcher bird or a Jackie hangman, because of his habit of actually catching insects and sometimes other things like mice, young birds, lizards, things like that. And they actually impale them on these thorns. And they use this as a larder. So what we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks is more and more frequently that they've been catching these armored ground crickets. And these birds will actually come back to these prey items and actually feed on them. You do find ones that have been left for quite a long time and they just deteriorate, or they decompose by themselves without the bird coming back. And you probably find that is more common when there's a higher abundance of prey resources around. And what you can see on here, I'm trying not to bump this tree here, is this orange stuff sticking up on it here. This would have been the defensive mechanism, the liquid that the armored ground cricket was giving out to try prevent the bird actually eating it, which it obviously wasn't successful. The bird grabbed this, came and impaled it over here. And what you typically find on a bush like this, if you look very, very carefully, you can actually find a number of different individuals or different prey items on the same bush. And this is what we call a larder site. So it's pretty much like, this is the shrike. This is his fridge. So he's saying, okay, well, I need to store some food items. And okay, there's actually another one there. I'm going to we don't have to come all the way around here, but there's another one over here. There we go. You can just see it in the shadow over there. So, and you'll find a number of these on one location like this. And like I say, I've seen baby birds, I've seen mice, quite large mice. So these birds, we haven't seen one here this morning, but if we do see one, we'll be sure to show you. So it just shows, we come out here and we see things like these armored ground crickets, but there's lots of things that eat them. Lamour has asked, can humans eat armored ground crickets? I'm sure you can. I personally have not tried them, and I don't know if I would try them, but yeah, I'm sure you'd be able to eat armored ground crickets. In fact, while we're at it, let's try. I'm going to give this one to no, I'm just kidding. No, I would love to eat it, but I don't have the heart to take the food away from a bird. Otherwise, I would. No, I don't think they would taste very good. And what you see with things like, I'm just using the meerkats as an example, when food is abundant and there's lots of scorpions, even though it takes a bit of digging, they'll actually walk straight past armored ground crickets without even feeding on them. And that tells you that although they can eat them, and they are palatable, and they derive nutrients from them, or nutritive value, it's probably not their first choice of prey items in areas where there's other good food availability there. But yeah, certainly they are palatable. And remember, there's a difference between edible and palatable. Something that's edible, I can eat the sand. Now I can sit and I can eat mouthfuls of sand. It doesn't mean it's palatable. I'm not going to derive any nutritional dividends from it. Something like this, you can get something that's incredibly toxic if you eat it. So you can say, well, yeah, it's edible, but it's not palatable. So really you want to be asking, is something palatable as opposed to being edible? So these are palatable. I'm just going to walk around just for my own interest and just see if I can find any more prey items.
I'd have to be very, 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 very hungry to eat an armored ground cricket, having spent time with them. I'm sure they taste fine, though. Now, this elephant is eating something equally difficult for a human being to eat because of the spikes on it. He's found himself the sapling of a thorn tree, the chilia tree, what used to be known as an acacia. And they love the saplings because they're full of nutrients. The roots are full of nutrients. And just watch how dexterous his trunk is. It's got two brilliant little fingers on the end of it, and he's able to pick up the smallest things with his great big trunk because of those dexterous fingers. There, he's using his foot like I suggested earlier. And he's trying to dig up some roots there, I think. He might also be trying to make himself a little patch of sand that he can spray on himself. Simon, elephants of this age seldom lie down and sleep, seldom to never. What you might find they do is they'll go up next to a termite mound and they'll lean against it. And so you'll often go past a termite mound and find the imprint of an elephant's skin there. And what they've done is just lean against it. Lying down for them is difficult because the blood tends to pool in whatever part of the body they're lying on, and it puts pressure on their internal organs. And so the little ones lie down and sleep probably once a day, the youngsters up to sort of 2 or 3 years old. And after that, they lie down less and less and less. This is brilliant. Now what he's doing is he's moving a log out the way. Yes, and putting some nice...
So what we're doing? What we're doing is we're just looking for any other little things on this bush. I just want to apologize. We just had a glitch on the other end there. So a really fun exercise that I sometimes do with guests is we take one bush or one tree, okay, and then you actually start going around it, because at first glance, okay, well, here's a bush, there's not much going on here, and you think, well, it's pretty straightforward. But when you start looking close, and I'm going to give you one example. We looked at it briefly yesterday. So if you look at the thorns generally on this tree, they're kind of like all the same size. But then you get these unusual thorns, and I'll just get out of the sun there. These really, really huge, thick thorns. And if you look, you'll see a number of them have actually got tiny little holes in. There's a hole there. I'll turn this one around. There is a hole over here. There's a hole there, there's another hole there. And what's going on here is you actually got ants. They're called slender ants, and they're actually living inside these thorns. And there's a couple of advantages for the tree to have these ants living with it. And one of them is just if animals are feeding, you know, as ants start running out and giving off formic acid, it just becomes unpleasant to carry on eating, as if thorns weren't enough.
Welcome back one last time to these very sleepy lions now. I think there's quite a cold breeze that's come up, and I think they are just resting in the sun and actually warming up a little bit, because it's been quite a chilly morning. Hi Kyan, you're saying what an amazing world, and I think there's almost no better place for that to come up, because it really is. It's been a spectacular morning. Lots of different animals that we've seen in lots of different reserves, all these different diverse areas that we've been to. It really has been nice. A quick little lift up of the head from that lioness. While we were watching just now, there was actually a vulture that was flying over, so we really are quite sure that the other lioness in this pride has maybe caught something, and maybe this lioness can't find her now. So I think there is a carcass somewhere close by, but we haven't managed to find us, and the lions haven't led us there yet. But we want to take this opportunity firstly to thank all the 10-cent viewers for joining us for the last 3 weeks, and to all the regular viewers, thanks so much for joining us again. And we hope you've had a very enjoyable morning with us all. Snow, you're going to have to come and visit us all in Africa soon if you're longing for it. Believe me, your first trip to Africa, that longing doesn't go away either. I hope there'll be lots more visits after that too. Thank you so much everyone for watching, and we will see you again this afternoon.